We're now going to head to Jupiter in Florida and get reaction on the ground to the Trump tariffs and those wild market gyrations. Earlier, I spoke with Kenny Polcari, founder and CEO of Kace Capital Advisors and also a former 35-year member of the New York Stock Exchange.
If you can make sense of what's going on, please let me know, because it's very confusing here, right? Yes, I think a lot of it was driven by the Trump tariffs and the pace at which he's trying to impose these tariffs and what it really means. Certainly, we saw after he announced them on Wednesday night, we saw the markets under pressure Thursday, again on Friday, overnight, certainly Sunday night into Monday. It felt like it was going to be really, really ugly today. And it actually started out that way. We traded right down to 4,800. I think with the low was 4,835 today, where it found some significant support. And then we had that rally on the back of some fake news about CNBC reported that the White House was going to halt the tariffs for 90 days, and suddenly the market just took off, did a complete 180 in all of about 3 minutes, went from negative to positive all over, and then the White House came out and certainly said it was fake news, not true at all, and then the market turned south again. So what that tells you is the market's really anxious, it's skittish. It's not really sure. It's uncertain. And the market hates uncertainty, right? It can deal with the news, good or bad. It can deal with it. What it can't deal with is all the uncertainty that causes stocks to kind of trend lower, because people just when they get uncertain, they get afraid, they get fearful, and they say, I want out.
So the interesting thing about this, I'm surprised that the market's surprised, because surely the thing I learned is what Donald Trump says is what Donald Trump will try to do. And yet the markets have been 100%. Surprised by the tariffs. And that's one thing that to me is a bit of a shock in itself.
Well, I agree with you, right? The way he presented it the other night, it seemed fairly legitimate to me. But there's been a lot of controversy on how we got those numbers, what the actual tariff numbers are versus what he presented to us, how they came up with the tariffs that we're going to impose on them. So there's been a lot of conversation about how he got the numbers and speculation that they basically pulled the numbers out of a hat, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. He's got a lot of very smart people around him. I can't believe they just decided to pull numbers out of a hat and go, ooh, maybe no one will notice. That doesn't make sense at all. Yet it is a visceral reaction. The way the media paints it over here is that the tariffs were much worse than anyone expected, and that's what kind of fueled the fire. Now, look, he hasn't blinked an eye. He's not paying attention to it. When he's asked about, is he worried about the market selling off? He goes, no. He said at some point the market's going to have to correct because it can't sustain the way we were going. And so far there are 50 different countries apparently that are knocking on his door trying to come to the table and renegotiate. Not necessarily say, okay, I give up, but they want to renegotiate. And I think that's a positive.
So there's a trend that I spotted in stocks in Australia, in the United States, across the world. And that is, if you're manufacturing in Asia at the moment and sending products to America, if you're manufacturing in Vietnam, if you're manufacturing in Taiwan, if you're manufacturing in China, you get smashed because you get hit hard by these tariffs. But if you've actually got a service, if you're, I don't know, it was a Meta, if you're an Alphabet, if you're an Amazon in the United States, and you don't have factories, broadly, you are pretty good. You are pretty well much left alone.
Right, but the problem is that if they don't have factories in the United States, they're not making anything in the United States. That's why they're making them in China and Vietnam and other parts of the world so that they get sent here and then they get tariffed, right? What he's trying to do is bring manufacturing back to this country. And I think, so far we've heard from at least a dozen companies that are going to start committing and investing billions of dollars in bringing manufacturing to this country. And that will eliminate any tariffs if they do that, right? If they manufacture here, then there's no tariff to pay.
So then you go to one other aspect of this. The uncertainty of the markets also comes in how long it takes to build those factories. You can't just immediately have a semiconductor plant, a car plant for EVs or whatever it is immediately. That is the delay. That is where the doubt comes into the markets.
That's right, because it can take 3, 4, 5 years for some of these plants to come and be up and running by the time they plan it. They pick the site, they go to build it, they outfit it, they get it ready for production, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in 6 months. And so therefore, that's kind of the certainly the uncertainty. But the fact is, you start to see some of these companies who have committed, they've openly committed big dollars to come to the United States and start that process. That's a positive, right? If it is, as long as it moves that way, I think he'll be fine. But it has to be moving that way. There has to be a real commitment, although it will take time. And what I'm assuming will happen is, as long as they commit to doing something here in the United States, then maybe there's going to be a different conversation about the tariffs that'd be charged importing into this country until such time that they're able to make it here. I think that's going to be part of the conversation.
I'll tell you what, it is so good to chat to you, Kenny Polcari. A little bit of bright news on the day, and many thanks for your time.
Thanks. Good night.